Good afternoon, everyone. You're all very welcome to this installment of Webinar Week with Postgraduate Studies at DCU. I'm Martin Kelly, the DCU Postgraduate Recruitment Officer, and I'm delighted to introduce this talk today on the MA in Documentary Practice, one of our new and totally unique courses to DCU. And today's course is going to be Programme Chair Dr. Tom Burke, who's going to start now just very, very shortly. Guys, just as a general run through of how the presentation will work, Tom is going to give his presentation, and then if you have any questions, you can type them into the chat, and then once the presentation is finished, Tom will read through your questions and answer them. But you can be typing away as the presentation goes on. I'm going to stop talking now and hand you over to the man himself. Tom, you're very welcome, and I hope everyone enjoys the presentation.
Thanks, Martin. I'll assume that I can be heard unless I hear differently. I'll assume that I can be heard unless I hear differently in the chat. And I'm going to officially share screen now. So there we go. So I'm down the bottom corner. Okay. Loud and clear. Okay, good. So I am, as Martin said, I am Dr. Tom Burke, still getting used to that. Only recently with the doctor at the start. And I'm the chair of the Masters in Documentary Practice. This is a relatively new Masters, as in this. It's currently running, but the year that we are running now is the first year of documentary practice. So for students who arrive here in September 2025, they will be coming to the second year of the Masters in Documentary Practice. I would say so far it's going very well indeed. We have a really good bunch of students who I'm going to show you some of their faces now in a minute. So I always think it's worth, when you're doing a presentation, you want to know who is this person and why should I listen to them. So who is this person? Dr. Tom Burke, running the Masters in Documentary Practice. Why should you listen to me? Well, you should listen to me because I'm running the Masters. I'm also administrating the Masters as the chair, which means that your applications will come to me. There's other people who I'll introduce you to in a minute that I check in with, but fundamentally it is me reading your application, some other people in registry that I engage with, but it's I'm kind of the route through this. I am, as the slide builds, chair of the Masters, but I'm also a documentary filmmaker and have been for the last 20 years or so, which means to a certain extent, I know what I'm talking about. For those from Ireland, you might be familiar with some of these titles. So just a kind of a potted history of the type of stuff I do. I make documentary films since 2001, and then really at a more professional level since kind of 2005. This is one that I'm always happy to talk about. It's a series of short films based in the Liberties in Dublin, and it was one of the first ones. It was the first kind of feature-length project that I did that drew together lots of other things that we had learned, and it's the first film that I did kind of on spec that did very well. So it's kind of aiming to describe the character of that neighborhood in the Liberties. So somewhere between anthropology, ethnography, and documentary work. But what's interesting about the Liberties is it came along, it was shot at that time when photography and video technology were kind of merging, and all of a sudden you could shoot HD video that looked as good as film, but you could shoot it at a fraction of the cost. And it's part of that kind of DSLR, Canon 5D, Sony EX1 moment where all of a sudden stuff that was shot cheaply, like the Liberties was, didn't look cheap anymore and looked pretty expensive. Shooting the Darkness, now totally different kettle of fish. I made that in 2018, 2019, and it's about the photography of the Troubles. Again, in my undergrad would have studied photography, so there's a part of me that's a frustrated photographer. So a couple of the projects I've done tend to be about photography. This was one of the projects that did well internationally. So it would have shown in Ireland, the UK, France, Germany, and I think we sold it to Austria, Italy, and Spain as well. totally different kettle of fish, again, is Losing Alaska. And the reason this is worth talking about as it relates to the documentary masters is this was a film I shot in a village called Newtok, Alaska, which is literally at the very far edge of Alaska. It's as far west as you can go before you start hitting Siberia. And because it was so far away and because getting there was so expensive and difficult, there was no crew. So it's a film that I shot, I should say, entirely by myself, which is important because the way things are going at the moment and the way we approach things in the documentary masters is we want to produce students, filmmakers, storytellers who are technologically self-sufficient. So the idea of me, if that film had been done 10, 15 years ago, it would have been me, the director, possibly with a camera person and a sound person and maybe a producer. So you're talking about 4 people getting on a plane and all of that cost. These days, you might be looking at 1 or 2 people getting on a plane, and those 1 or 2 people need to be very good at shooting, very good at recording audio, but also have those interpersonal skills that mean you can meet people, you can talk to people, you can get their story from them. And then that's just me bragging about one of the last projects I did for RTE, which is still on the RTE player, I believe, was the 2nd highest rated doc on RTE that year. A nice slice of social history. Again, totally different project from the Alaska film, but again, a documentary. So point being, documentary comes in lots and lots of different guises and different modes. And then I'll just mention this because I like it so much. The Peculiar Sensation of Being Pat Inglesby, which I produced rather than directed. It was directed by Seamus Murphy. And it's a kind of a cautionary economic tale because it took 6 years to put together, and was very much a passion project to profile the man who I think is a national treasure. Thank you very much. Now, let me see my notes. I'm assuming I can be heard. So, I'm talking to you today, and I'm coming to you as the filmmaker. The Masters in Documentary Practice, we sometimes refer to as the 3-headed beast. And those 3 heads are different modes of storytelling. So there's film, there's photography, and then there's audio storytelling. So you've heard a little bit about me in terms of film and video. Dragana Jurisic is a fine art photographer. She's an artist. She uses the camera in a very expressive way to make narrative photographic work, documentary photographic work, and very personal photographic work. But not only is she an artist, but she's also a highly skilled technician. So again, she's not asking other people to load her camera or prep her camera. She herself, embodied within her, are all of the technical skills that are required to bring her projects to fruition. And they might be gallery installations, they might be photo books, and actually, just to make things interesting, at the moment she is in development on her first feature documentary, which draws on Western cinema motifs and on her own photography as a younger person. So she's very cool and very interesting. And then similarly in the audio space, Dr. Andreas Howe is, again, an academic, an accomplished technician. He's also a DJ. He's also a musician. He's also an ethnographer. And he's also, like all of these people, part anthropologist, fascinated by people and why people are the way they are and why stories play out the way they do. So across those 3 modes, if you like, the idea is that we put our students through a fairly demanding schedule of making work in those 3 modes across the 2 semesters, so that when they get to the 3rd semester, they can choose which mode that they're going to use to tell the bigger story that they're going to tell. And I'll get to that in a minute. Now, the Masters in Documentary Practice, one of the ways that we have built it is kind of the rule of threes. So there's 3 modes of storytelling. There's also 3 forms of external engagement. Now, what do I mean by that? Ways that the staff and the students within this Masters aren't just here in DCU kind of learning from each other and making work together, but reaching out beyond the walls of DCU and engaging with institutions and the industry as it is. So in the first example, we do have master classes with leading practitioners, documentary filmmakers, documentary photographers, and people who make long form audio stories, podcasts, and radio documentaries. They come in the second semester and do master classes with students. And the idea is that kind of no questions are off the table. How was this made? Why was it made? What were the ethical implications of how it was made? How was it funded? What was the relationship with the platform? So on and so on. So kind of big, wide-ranging conversations with the people who are making the best work in any given year. When it comes time to pitch, the final projects, that pitching will take place to a panel of industry experts. So representatives from the TV channels, the radio stations, the various platforms will be in the room, and students will pitch, in quite a real world example to those people. And then crucially, the summer project, which is either a short documentary piece up to 14 minutes long, and potentially a photographic output. But in the case of film output, that film will be screened publicly at the Irish Film Institute at the Documentary Festival in September. So as you're working on your project over the summer, there is no suggestion that this will be shown to a couple of lecturers, graded and put in a drawer. This will be shown to a paying audience, a paying public audience, who will let you know what they think of it. And in my experience, there's nothing that focuses the brain more than that. Now, this is a selection of our students from this year. And the reason I wanted to show their faces was, it's been very interesting because it was the first year we ran it. We couldn't be exactly sure where the students would come from. And what we've ended up with is a pretty even split between those students who are Irish and those who are not Irish. So there's a mixture. We have students from all over Ireland, a few from Dublin, and then beyond that, they are from Spain, Belgium, France, America via Russia, Nepal, Germany, Italy, Nigeria via Mullingar, and we even have somebody from Swords. Now, sorry, as the light is fading, I'm just going to turn on the light in my room so I'm not so in the dark. This will show you. This is going to totally change the image. Totally change. So I'm going to darken down the image like so. Now, we should be able to control the image in documentary practice. Now, let's see. So these are our guys. This is a selection of our guys. So a very international profile. And what these images are all from an exercise that they do in semester 1, in my module, documentary video production, where they do what we're calling an autoethnography. Each student in the class has to make a film profile of another student in the class. So that means that every student is both a filmmaker profiling another student and is themselves the subject of a different student's film. And that kind of chain goes right around the class and kind of closes into a nice loop, so that at the end of the semester, which is where we almost are now, every student has both been a profiler and a profilee. So they've both been behind the camera and in front of the camera. And in doing that, the idea is they get to know what it feels like to have a lens pointed at you, so that when they themselves are behind the camera, they can do that with some amount of empathy. So that's Anna from Barcelona, and Simeon from Mullingar. Paul from Germany, Josh from Dublin. With a couple of dubs there. And so on. So this exercise has been really interesting and has been it's really kind of turbocharged all of our conversations about ethics and kind of the limits of representation and what is the deal when you're pointing a camera at somebody and you're trying to describe a slice of their life. What are the parameters that are at play there? It has been very interesting and very fun. You can even just see in this example, I'm not sure if I can point on the screen, there's Claudia being the filmmaker and looking a certain way, and there's Claudia being the subject and looking quite a different way. So I like that. I think that's interesting. Okay, moving on. That is the shape broadly of semester 1. So documentary on screen with Dr. Roddy Flynn is an academic module where students watch, if you like, the canon. They watch the important work of documentary film from the last 100 years or so, discuss it, get to know it, get to grips with, documentary films thus far. Audio and sound design is with Dr. Andreas Howe, and it is bringing students up to speed on audio recording and editing to a high level. So making everybody care deeply about the audio they record and how they put it together, both for its own sake and as it relates to audiovisual production. And then documentary video production is with me. That is the aforementioned auto ethnography, camera work, audio work, studio work, lighting, pitching, the whole thing. Semester 2, the main practical activity in semester 2 is documentary photography with Dr. Dragana Jurisic. And then currently there are 2 academic modules, media audience and consumption, which is kind of talking about, both in a practical and a theoretical sense, kind of the media landscape and the interaction between media producers and who that audience might be and what the platform might be in order to reach that audience. And then media law and ethics is a kind of a robust overview, drawing a little bit from journalism and a little bit from other media theory on what are the legal and ethical parameters that we operate in when we make documentary work. And then the summer term, which you might call semester 3, is the major project. It's devoted to that major project where students are mostly independently working on the project that they have pitched and delivering that towards the end of the summer. There'll be regular check-ins with supervisors, but to a great extent, students are kind of loose to make those projects as they will. What's worth saying now, when I look at the semester 1 and 2 overview, and this might be relevant for students who are not within Dublin, and also, so mostly the students who are in Ireland but not within Dublin. So students who are coming here from overseas, this tends to be less of an attraction. At the moment, the way we have structured it, the master's runs in person on 1 day per week. So most of the modules run on a Thursday, and that's been done to facilitate housing situations and to allow people to commute from further away, so that they make a firm 1 day per week commitment to be here in person, and then some other elements are online during the week. That was something we brought in to help deal with some of the difficulty that we have with finding places to live at the moment. Now, yeah, we are limiting the 2025 intake to 16 places, and that is just based on the shape of the room and how kind of the intimacy that we want to engender within the room. In fairness to DCU, they have invested heavily in this program in the last year or so. So we have 7 brand new Sony cameras, 6 FX6s and 1 FX3 to anybody who's into that type of stuff. We have a dedicated lab for the masters that is only for the masters, so it is its own room, and that room has got Mac Studio computers. It's got 4 editing suites in it and a viewing. We have a huge viewing screen that we watch stuff on, and so we are quite well resourced, I would say. So that, in 15 minutes or so, is the end of my spiel. If you would like to know more, the website, I believe, has been updated and is up to date, but I am happy to take any questions which may appear. Or anything I didn't cover, please do ask me a question.
Thanks very much for that, Tom. A very insightful look into the program and how it works in practice. So folks, do we have any questions for Tom? Please do type away into the chat. And if there isn't any questions, obviously Tom has the contact information there where you can reach him on the course webpage and reach out to him there. But if there's any questions while we're here, please do type into the chat. We'll keep it open for a couple of minutes. And then if no one has any questions, we'll end the session for today. But please do type in if you have any questions.
Of course, Martin, if you have any questions, you feel free to ask me anything you want. Would you like to do a master's in documentary practice?
I mean, I probably should do a master's with DCU at this point, shouldn't I?
You're here.
Yeah, I mean, it's sort of in the job title at this stage, but no. In fairness, we do have a couple of student ambassadors as well, guys. It is worth saying doing this program. We have Oscar and Elizaveta doing this program, and they speak very highly of it and of Tom as well. And it is a really, really good program that is very niche. It is unique to DCU as well. There's no course like it in the country. So it's a really good opportunity to develop a very specialized set of skills. But if you do have questions, guys, please do reach out to us. And as I say, if you want to chat to Oscar and Lisa to see what it's like being a student on the course, you can reach out to them via the Postgraduate Hub on the Chat with Students feature as well.
It's pretty well figured. I heard anecdotally that another university was trying to set up something similar, but they're 2 to 3 years away from making it happen, for what it's worth.
You can wait 2 or 3 years, and you can do it today with DCU, guys.
Yeah, well, this is it. Yeah. Who's got that kind of time?
Exactly. Okay, so I don't think we have any questions there. I think Tom, you must have answered them all in your presentation.
Yes.
So listen, guys, we won't keep you if there isn't any questions. So as I say, you can reach out to Tom via the course webpage or our student ambassadors via our Postgraduate Hub. But in the meantime, thank you all for joining us, and thanks again to Tom Burke for his time and giving us a walkthrough on what this very interesting and unique course is about. So thanks very much, everyone.
Okay, thanks, Martin. Bye.
Thanks, Tom. Take care. Bye-bye.